What's going on, everybody? Thank you so much for tuning in to an episode today here on the Growing Green podcast. This is your host, Jeremiah Jennings, and I am super excited to come to you today with another fresh new episode for your Wednesday. Hope you guys are doing well. Hope you're having a great week this week and wrapping up the year, wrapping up 2024 strong. I know we are. We've had a busy year this year. It's been a year of growth. It's been a year of learning new things, trying new things, wins, losses, all of the things that go along with all of that. You know how that goes. But it has been one that I'm very appreciative for. I don't wish this away at all. Like this time that we're going through, this growth phase that we're in, we're figuring out business, trying to just take it one day at a time, and we're learning things on our end as far as our crews go, adding team members, systems, processes, all those things. And so I hope that the shows we put out, the shows that we've been doing, sharing our journey along the way has been beneficial to each and every one of you. But today I'm excited because we have an amazing guest interview lined up for you. We've been doing a lot of solo shows recently. It's been a crazy time just installing Christmas lights. It's been a wild schedule, but today we have time to sit down and have an awesome interview with Ethan Seeley of Malvern Lawn Care. I'm excited. Me and Ethan got to meet at Equip Expo. It was kind of just like off the whim, and I'm glad we did though. I'm excited. I'm excited for our friendship moving forward. I think that I know that your business is it's something that I look up to. It's a business model that I'm looking to get into and chase a little bit. So I'm excited for your insight today to share with our audience on your expertise, the things you've learned along the way, your wins, your losses as well, because I know you've got them. And so, yeah, man, welcome to the show. How are you this morning? It's a rainy Monday morning here in Alabama. What's it like where you are?
Yeah, it was nice this morning. Now it's drizzling a little bit, so our crews are still working. But if it picks up in the rain, they're probably going to call it for the day. But
I hear you.
Yeah, it's been a good week. I'm excited for it.
Well, let's hop into it. This is going to be like a good conversation, sharing about your journey, your story. Before we even get into that, let's ask a real life question. How do y'all handle rain days? You said they're going to call it. How does that work? How does pay work on that? If you don't mind sharing that, like how do your guys lose hours? What happens with that?
I don't mind at all. So rain days. So we do 4 10-hour days for all of our field employees. So Monday through Thursday, they work from 7 to 5 o'clock roughly. So if it rains, they usually will have to work on a Friday, which isn't a big deal. But I kind of leave it up to the crew leaders more than often. If it's raining and they can finish with the work they have for the day, then they'll finish it. If it's raining and it's going to impede their progress or the time they're going to get it done in, then they'll call it.
Okay. I love it. Well, tell us about your business then. Open up, expound. How many crew leaders do you have? How many team members do you have? What does your business look like? How's it grown? Share your journey, and then we'll kind of dive into the nitty gritty of how it operates today.
Sounds good. So right now we have 4 full-time crews. We have 2 landscaping crews, 2 mowing crews, and then we have a hardscaping crew, which right now they're all transitioning to doing some leaves. So we have anywhere between 4 to 5 crews. We have office manager, salesperson, director of operations, foreman, and a virtual assistant. Right now, I guess if you want me to talk about my story, would be started cutting grass when I was 12 in my parents' neighborhood. When I was 16, I started cutting some grass, doing some mulch jobs, picking up work on Facebook locally in the Malvern area, which is about 45 minutes outside of Philadelphia. Went to college for 2 years. My freshman year of college, we got sent home because of COVID. Started to pick up a lot of work going into my sophomore year, did online school at home, and did work full time. So that was a kind of a transition phase for me, was deciding if I wanted to finish school or if I wanted to run the business full time. Decided my junior year to not go back to college and just take the business and see kind of how it would go for a year with just running it full time. And that was in 2021. So in 2022, we hired our first full-time employee, and now we have 16 people full-time.
Talk about some growth. In 2 years, that's wild, man. Tell me, what does that process look like? Like, so you're saying lawn maintenance, you're talking enhancements. You're running a business model now that a lot of guys out there are trying to get into, myself included. Like that, what you're saying is exactly what I want to start the spring with: two lawn maintenance crews, 2 landscape crews, and go and grow from there. So, tell me a little bit about the building process, right? Like, how have you grown? How have you added team members when you needed to? How have you trained crew leaders? Like, I want to unpack a lot today in today's episode, and we'll start with just the very beginning. Like, go back to your first couple employees. Did you hire a really good right-hand man that helped you get up and get running? What did that process look like? Getting yourself out of the field a little bit, getting your right-hand man in there and running that thing without you there.
Absolutely. So I hired my right-hand man first. He was starting, I was the crew leader, he was the crew member. Transitioned to, he was the crew leader with managing 2 or 3 guys, and I was kind of the foreman who would set the crew up, pick up materials, drop it off, quality control check jobs, also do the sales and the invoicing, kind of like a little bit of everything. And I think that's a really difficult spot to be for a lot of people when you're juggling a lot of things and you're wearing many hats. So I think getting over that hump is a really huge step. So he was able to run the first crew for the first year. Second year, we were able to add another crew. So he was not on either crew. He managed both crews. So he did the materials and he did the setting up the crew and the machinery. And I was able to do sales, but I also still was very, very involved in the operations. So as we added crews, I think we were at 4 crews when it was either 3 or 4 crews when I was able to step away and just do sales completely and still have a little bit involved in operations, but I was probably 75 to 80% doing sales. And then by the time end of last year, which was 2023, we were able to hire a full-time office manager, which took all the phone calls, did the invoicing, helped a little bit with the scheduling. All that stuff was super helpful. My advice would be, don't skimp out on paying somebody like cheap just to get a body in. I think you're going to get a lot more from people that you pay better and you take care of. So I would definitely not be able to be in the position I am now, where now we have a salesperson actually. So I'm doing a little bit of sales, but not a lot, without having really, really good people that do their role and do it well. I'm a huge proponent of not micromanaging. So I want to train the people really well in the first month, 2 months, and then kind of let them do their thing, let them mess up, let them learn from it. But I'm not someone who's going to be on top of everybody all the time. It's just not how I want to, I want to lead.
Training is something that's a hot topic in our industry. It's if you've gone to any element events that Mark Bradley's put on, those masterminds, he's talked about it a lot. Like, you have to train people, you have to empower them. It's interesting to me that you say that, because my first question when you say that about your crew leader, your right-hand man, is you have your right-hand man and you go out and then he starts leading 2 crews, right? Well, what did he do? Did he develop that second crew leader, or did you develop that crew leader where he turned into splitting those and running those and turned into that foreman role?
I think at this time we were both still training them. It was a joint effort I was so involved in the operations at that point that it was kind of like we were both, in the weeds with training those people and getting them to kind of acclimated and up to speed with our standard and our quality of work. But he was definitely on site every single day, working with them, kind of hopping back and forth each crew, like helping this crew, and back and forth. So he was able to train those crew leads to kind of where we want to get them to. And I was also helping and also doing sales at the same time.
So what does training look like for you now? Maybe if you want to share what it looked like back then, then yeah, go ahead. But maybe up to today, now that you've learned some things and you've figured a few things out, what does that training process look like? Because for me in my company, it's so easy to just like, hey, here's a shirt. Look, I've done it for 5 years. Go figure it out, right? Or stick with somebody who knows a little bit what they're doing. But then you have issues. You have quality control, right? It turns into nightmares. And so we've gone through a lot of that in our company, and we're trying to get legitimate systems and processes for training set in place. What share about that, if you don't mind? Like, what are some actionable items and steps you can take, a business owner can take, anyone out there who's trying to train those first 3, 4, 5 guys who are out there in the field without them there? Because like, that's you're giving up so much quote unquote power when you do that, to trust those guys to go be out there without you. Like, your name is on the company. Correct. And they're out there representing you. So you want to have them trained properly. Like, walk me through some of that if you don't mind. What are some legit actionable items and steps you can take for training?
Absolutely. So I'm not going to say that we have it perfect or we have it all down, but some of the stuff that we do that works is every Monday we have a tailgate talk. So from 6:45 to 7:15 every Monday for half an hour, we go over either a safety or a training item. It could be, how to use the hedge trimmers, how to use a lawnmower, how to back up a trailer, how to check the oil in the trucks. Like, it could be really anything that is involved in the day-to-day of operations. And then something that we've been okay at, we could be better at, is having once a quarter doing a half day of training with all the team. So we did it in the spring. We didn't do it in the summer. We're going to do it in the winter preparing for snow. So we'll have done 2 of the 4 that I wanted to do as far as training goes. It gets, obviously things get busy and sometimes training gets pushed to the side, which really it shouldn't, but I'm going to be honest, it does.
Yeah.
So in the spring when we do our orientation, so our season starts March 1st. So we'll do orientation like February 27th or 28th, the Friday before. They'll do half day in the office learning about, we use Aspire, so just new things with Aspire, how the crews are going to be set up, any new changes or policies for the next year. And then the second half of the day is going to be in the field at the shop doing just some training. And we'll have stations set up with different people who run each station. And then the winter time, which is going to be coming up in the next 2 weeks, we're going to do our winter training. We have a mulch company that we also own, but it's about a mile down the road. We're going to bring our trucks up there, and we have tons of wood chips. So we're going to spread the wood chips around, plow the wood chips, go over how to shovel properly and efficiently, go over how we're going to be spreading salt, both bulk and on sidewalks. So I'm excited for that. I feel like my role, I do a lot of training in the office. I don't really do much training right now in the field. I have my foreman and my operations manager. They're doing just those morning trainings with the teams. And then when my foreman's on site, we've talked about it a bunch, but if he's on site, his responsibilities are either to quality control a job, set up a crew, or train. He's not supposed to be on a site just to work with the crew. If he's working with them, he better be showing somebody how to do it, so he does not need to be there next time.
Yeah.
That's kind of my philosophy on training, is if somebody who's maybe not supposed to be on site all the time, working in the weeds with the guys, if they're there, they better be showing somebody how to do something more efficiently than they currently are.
I love that. Org chart is something that I'm figuring out, and I think a lot of guys are figuring out. You've given a little bit of like insight into your org chart. Talk to me about that. How have you developed that org chart, and now what does that look like as far as reporting, direct reports, and as you've grown to 15, 16 people now, what does your org chart look like, if you don't mind sharing that?
Absolutely. I'm pretty much an open book, so anything you want to ask, I'm all about. So org chart is something that, again, I think it wasn't as important in the beginning, but now it definitely is, because there are people like, we have our director of operations is, basically below me, and then we have our foreman right below him. And they work side by side every single day. They have a lot of overlap in what their kind of, general, I don't want to say responsibilities are, but duties are. So we have to make sure that we have clearly defined roles.
Yeah.
So that the crew knows who they should be calling when they have a question. They should be calling our foreman, who sets them up with all the jobs, and not the director of operations. If our foreman doesn't answer, then it goes to him. So there's a path of who they should be contacting first and who's kind of the backup in the situations. We break our org chart up into admin, operations, and sales. So admin, we have our office manager and we have our virtual assistant. So virtual assistant works out of the Philippines, works 40 hours a week for us, and our office manager is here in person every day.
Yeah.
Which the virtual assistant, if that's not something that you use, it's I highly recommend it.
It's something that I started using 6 weeks ago, and it's the best decision I've ever made.
Completely agree.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
awesome.
it's amazing.
Yes. So operations, like I kind of already mentioned, we have director of operations, foreman, and then all of our crew leads are under our foreman, and then our crew members under the crew leads. We really are trying, as kind of an emphasis for the end of this year and going to next year, is pushing a lot of responsibility down onto those crew leaders.
Yeah.
We have notes on all of our jobs. We have pictures. We use company cam. So all the pictures we have for the jobs are labeled and descriptive. So we're trying to really push a lot of responsibility onto those crew leads for them to run the jobs and not have our foreman need to set them up at pretty much every job they do. Because right now they do a mulch job or a leaf job. He's pretty much going out there and walking them through it, even though they probably should be able to do it on their own. So
who's doing the estimation and the customer communication of that, we'll say, leaf cleanup?
So Andrew is our salesman. He does all of our maintenance sales. I'm still doing the hardscape and larger install sales, but that might change next year as well. So Andrew's doing the sales, and then Mike, who's director of operations, he does the scheduling. So they work together as far as like something gets signed in Aspire, Mike puts it on the schedule, and then but our office manager, Jennifer, lets the customer know when we're coming out.
Okay. So this is interesting. I kind of want to let me do a little role play here.
Yeah.
I'm a customer that calls in. I'm a customer that calls in. I want to have my lawn taken care of. Just a normal residential customer. what is the process for Malvern Lawn Care of getting this scheduled, having someone show up, keeping up with quality control, all those things? Like, walk me through that for guys that are trying to figure, because I feel like there's so many people who are trying to figure out, how do I even do this? Like, what are
Yep.
action steps? You hear people talk about it. What can we actually do to make this actually happen? So, like, walk me through that. Hey, I'm Jeremiah Jennings. I want my lawn mowed. All right, Ethan, you take it away.
Awesome. Do you mind if I share my screen real quick?
Yeah, take it away.
All right, this is perfect because my office manager just made this flow chart.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm learning more about. I'm trying to implement flowcharts more and more. So this is cool.
Beautiful. Can you let's see?
Yeah, you're working on
You
my
can see
side.
it?
Yep.
Awesome. All right, so she just put this together. So they
Very
start
cool.
customer inquiry. They text, call, contact us through the website, which goes to the email. She gathers the information, which goes into our software, which is Aspire, but there are tons out there that are really good. Schedules the estimate. So the office manager who takes the call, she then books the estimate on our team's calendar, either for Andrew or myself. One of us will go out to meet with the customer. Our general rule of thumb is within 48 hours of meeting you on site, we should have a price to you into your email from Aspire. After that's been sent out, our virtual assistant will have 3 immediate is a good word, follow-up. So a day after it being sent out, he'll follow up by text just to confirm that they got the email, because we know sometimes you could have the wrong email, it could go to spam, whatever.
Yeah.
He just follows up to make sure you get it. 3 days after that first follow-up, he's going to follow up and say, do you have any questions? Is there anything you want to change? Whatnot. After that third day of follow-up, 7 days later, he follows up again. So those are kind of our 3 big follow-ups. Anytime in any of those follow-ups, if there's things they want to change, it goes back to the salesperson. He'll make those changes and resend it to the homeowner. Through Aspire, they are able to virtually sign the proposal. So if they sign their proposal, we then send them a link to our portal, which is going to have them be able to pay online for the deposit for their project. All of our one-time projects, that could be a spring cleanup, it could be a leaf cleanup, it could be a patio, it could be any of those items, they need a deposit up front. If they are looking to get on a contract for a full property maintenance contract or a commercial snow removal contract, something that's going to be over a duration of a few months with maybe multiple services, we're not going to require a deposit for that, but we are going to require either a credit card or ACH on file to start that work. So that's kind of the process of everything that happens before the job.
Yep.
Once that deposit is paid or that payment method is on file, our operations manager is to schedule that job. Once it's scheduled, Jennifer, the combination of Jennifer and our virtual assistant.
So look, can I interrupt you?
Yeah.
I want to come back to this. Remember where we're at in the flow chart.
Yep.
So how does the operations manager is going to schedule this? Schedule the job.
Okay.
Who knows? So you're the sales guy talking to the customer.
Mm-hmm.
Does the sales guy know the schedule of how far booked out you are right now? Like, because like customer's going to ask you that, right? So where does that communication break come in there? Because I feel like there could be one.
Yeah, great question. So that's something we're actually working on right now, because I have been known to give timelines that maybe are not as realistic as they should be.
As every owner does.
Yes. So I have now been instructed to tell them that I no longer have the responsibility of scheduling, and that somebody from my office will be reaching out to them with when the schedule is going to happen. I know how far out we are realistically. Like if it's a really good customer of ours that needs a cleanup done in the next 2 weeks, there are little time slots we can fit them in. But a new customer, we're going to say, we're really booked up. Before Christmas time is going to be tough. We're going to try for that, but we'll make sure to let you know once we receive your deposit, because we're not going to schedule it before we get the deposit. We'll let you know if we're going to get in before Christmas or it's going to be the week after New Year's.
So do you ever get pushback from that? Like, and this is the imposter syndrome, the person who hasn't done this to this level yet. Like, I'm sitting here. Well, you're gonna require a deposit before you even tell them when you can do the job. How does that? Are you selling your service that good they don't ask that question? Like, does that make sense? Where does that come into play?
No, it's a good question. It's fair. It's very fair. If they have a hard deadline, then I'll make sure I'll give them like, hey, we can get it in if you get the deposit to us by Wednesday. So if you want the job done, let's say they have a party this Friday, right? And they want it done. And this is say last week, we need your deposit by Friday evening. So we come in Monday, we can get on the schedule for Friday.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't give us like a hard deadline. Like, hey, we would like it done, before Christmas, but like whenever is fine.
Yeah.
We'll say, we should be able to get it done. Yeah. It depends. If you get the deposit to us today or tomorrow or right when we send the proposal to you, you'll get on the schedule. But if you wait until December 20th, when we only are working the 23rd, then you're not going to get on the schedule.
Okay, so you are like your scheduling process lives and dies off of the deposit.
Correct. And or if they have a pay method on file. But yes, they don't pay the deposit. They're not on the schedule until we receive that.
So have you been burned in your company beforehand? What is your is it cash flow? I mean, cash is a huge part of it, but what is your reasoning for that deposit required for all one-time jobs? And how big of a stickler are you on it? Are y'all like, are you truly, hey, your job does not get scheduled if you don't have a deposit here or a payment method added?
All right, so 2 questions there. One is going to be kind of what started for us. It was more of a cash flow thing than it was like we got screwed on any one job.
Yeah.
Just a lot of jobs require materials. So
Yep.
I don't want to be out, X amount of dollars for materials before we even show up on site.
Yep.
It's also good for cash flow as well. They know that they have to pay. They have some skin in the game up front, so they can't go elsewhere. That might have been kind of the reasoning. Like they didn't pay any deposit and they just went somewhere else.
Yeah.
So that locks them in and it helps us with material cost. What was your second question? I'm sorry.
I already forgot it. You shouldn't have thrown it back on me like that. Deposit, and then just how big of a stickler are you on it? Like, is that truly like you do not schedule anything without a deposit?
So I would say we are pretty strict about it. The only caveat would be if they are a full service customer that has a payment method already on file, we are more lenient with that. So if we already have their information and we've worked with them for the whole year or for years, I'm a little bit more lenient. I still would like deposit on pretty much every single job.
That's awesome. That's cool. And sorry I'm grilling you, but I think this is like,
please, it's okay.
This is cool things. Like, these are actionable things that people can go and do something with. And that's the stuff that I'm fighting for and searching for myself, for our company, for these guys that are listening that are trying to break through to that $1 million revenue and beyond. Like, these are the steps you have to take. So back to your flow chart here. That was really good. And I think that people, guys, this episode is going to be up on YouTube. So if you want to see the flow chart, you can go check it out over there on the Growing Green Podcast YouTube channel. But here, I'm sitting here watching it and following along with you. So go back to that in audio. If you're just listening to audio, you can follow along. Ethan's doing a great job explaining. But so we made it to the customer said yes part, payment follow up, like trying to get a deposit. Continue through your process at this point.
Sure. So we get the deposit or they get the payment method on file. It gets scheduled on Aspire, and then we send them on Thursday. We'll send an email or text out that says we'll be at your property next week. We're letting them know in that text as well that next week, the day before we're there, we're going to let you know what day it is. So Thursday, we'll say we're going to be at your property next week. If we're going to be there on Wednesday, Tuesday, they'll get a text saying we'll be at your property tomorrow. That's how pretty much the scheduling works. Crew shows up, executes the job, depending on if it's a contracted job or a one-time job. If it's a one-time job, our foreman will go out either same day or next day to quality control check that job. Once that's been done, the bill will be generated and sent out. If it's a contracted job, meaning they're on their recurring payments every month, still get the quality control for any of those, spring cleanup, fall cleanup jobs, but the bill won't be sent out because it's on a contract where you get billed once a month.
Yep, that's awesome.
Yeah, then the only last thing I have, which is really for like these one-time jobs, is we're going to follow up, ask how the service was. I don't know if we have a survey finalized yet. I know it's something that we've been talking about, sending out a customer survey. But if it's not already a thing, we're going to be working on it to send a survey out and then ask for a Google review if that survey comes back positive. And if it doesn't, then somebody's going to call them, reach out to them and find out why and try to correct it.
That's good. Quality control. How are you managing that on these recurring sites? These recurring sites that you have normal maintenance, like what does that process look like for quality control? Are they out once a month, once a week? I'm sure every site may vary, but just as a general rule, how are you doing that? Because that's something that I feel like guys can lose big contracts over that. Like, you get out of the field, you're so busy running around like crazy, you can't keep up with everything, and then your guys don't perform something the way that it should be, and then you get bit and you lose the contract because you didn't properly quality control.
Absolutely. I think it depends on the type of job, not as much the customer. I mean, there's obviously some customers that are going to be higher touch customers, but for a standard property residential, we're going to quality control check pretty much every job that's a landscaping job. So that would be, like I said, your spring cleanup, your fall cleanup, your pruning.
Yeah.
We're not going to be, every time we cut the grass, we're not sending somebody out to quality control that. If we're going to spray weeds or pull weeds, We're not going to quality control check that. The mowing, I would say I would like for us to quality control check every property once a month.
Yeah.
Realistically, it's probably every other. Just to be transparent, I think it's
Yeah.
probably not every month, but that's kind of one of the things I mentioned earlier was pushing a lot of responsibility back to the crew leaders. So really trying to get them to obviously do quality work, but at some point next year, we're going to be implementing a pay for performance structure so that they are incentivized to do things efficiently, but as well as quality, so they don't get callbacks.
I love it. Okay, that's very cool. Very cool. I'm interested to hear how P4P goes for you. We tried that a couple years ago, and it just wasn't the right fit for us at the time. I've yet to see it. I've yet to see it work for our company at scale. Not to say that it can't work. I've yet to see it personally happen. So I'm interested to see how that goes for you. Do you have someone that you've like looked up to that you follow that does it at scale?
So I've heard about it from a lot of people. We're going to do strictly based on estimated hours versus actual hours.
Yep.
So I'm trying to keep it really simple for all of our crew leads. All of our jobs are bid based on man hours. And if they hit their hours, if they're right on hours, say there's 100 hours and they hit 100, there's no bonus.
Yeah.
If there's 100 hours estimated and they hit 90, we're figuring out maybe the company takes 5 of those hours and 5 of those gets paid to the crew.
Mm-hmm.
We're still trying to figure out what that number is percentage wise, with a caveat in there that says if a customer calls us back to go fix something at the job, that job will not count towards that bonus structure, whether they're 10 hours or 50 hours under. If a customer notices something that we messed up on, it's not going to be counted towards their hours.
Mm-hmm.
If our foreman Rory quality control checks the job and notices is something that is messed up, those hours will still count, but any go back hours will be added to their actual hours for the job. Trying to keep it simple. I'm optimistic, honestly, about how it's going to work. We're going to put a TV at our shop with each crew with actual and estimated hours and percent efficiency every single week. And then we'll probably bonus out once a month based on efficiency ratings.
Yeah, that's awesome, dude. Hey, best of luck. I hope it works out.
Thank you.
And I hope you get to share your story and help a lot of people learn and do it, right? Like it's
absolutely.
Business is a game of just figuring out one day at a time. That's what I'm realizing more and more every day. You don't have all the answers. You don't have it all figured out. It's just like get up, go to work, figure it out.
Yep.
So what is it? Are you mainly residential right now? Are you commercial? What does your mix look like?
So we do overall revenue wise, we're probably 95% residential, 5% commercial.
That's awesome.
And most of that commercial is snow.
Really?
Yes, we do. We have 5 driveways that we plow. The rest is commercial, and a lot of our maintenance is residential. I would like to start to grow in the commercial maintenance more. I'm just trying to figure out the pricing structure is different. So I think we're fairly profitable residentially, and I think it's going to be a challenge to remain that profitable doing commercial work.
When you say residential, are you mainly like big estate lots, big full service properties, or is it just like your $50, $60 mow, blow and go properties?
So we call them full service maintenance contracts, which is basically a mowing contract plus at least one other service that's a landscaping service. So full service could be mowing, sprinkling up a mulch, or it could be mowing, fertilizing, aerating, sprinkling up a mulch, summer pruning, summer weeding, annual flowers, fall cleanup, all of it. So of those contracts, we have about 120, and of those 120, we have maybe 5 or 7 properties that are mowing only, which are really not trying to do many of those moving forward.
Yeah.
So the mowing is our least profitable service, but if we pair it with the landscaping, which are a lot more profitable, it works out for us. The only people that we will cut mowing only is if they're neighbors with somebody else that is a full service customer, or if they have a very large property, maybe they already have a groundskeeper that works there full time or whatnot, but it has to be a large property that we're going to be there for a few hours to cut the grass.
I love it. That's super cool. That's a very good structure. I think that you have a lot of structures and like systems and things in place. It sounds like you do, at least from our point of view, outside looking in. And I think that do you attribute that to your growth over the past 2 years, like getting these things in place early? What do you attribute the growth to? Like growing from 0 to 16 people in a matter of a couple years, like that's major growth. And I know it's 4 crews, it's a couple office people, like backside help, but what is that? What do you attribute that to?
I would say they go hand in hand, but asking a lot of questions and always trying to learn. I never feel like I know everything or I have it figured out, but constantly seeking out mentorship and trying to learn from people, whether they're bigger or smaller. There's plenty to be learned from somebody who's a $10 million company, and plenty to be learned from somebody who's at 500,000. Just trying to learn something from every conversation and apply it to our business is super important.
Mm, that's awesome. What will y'all do? What do you think y'all do in revenue this year?
We're going to do a little over 2 million.
2 million with, wow, that's awesome. With how many field guys?
Right now we have 9 or 10 field guys.
Wow, that's awesome. That's amazing. That's really good
Yeah.
numbers, dude.
Thank you.
Mm,
It's been a good year.
Yeah.
We've been learning every year. I mean, I feel like I'm breathing down a fire hose a little bit, but
Yep.
learning so much. I mean, I don't want to say every day, really. I'm learning something or we're trying something new.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been amazing.
What do you have to share maybe about your growth journey that I haven't personally asked you or you've hit on today? Like, is there anything that you look back on and you say, you know what, this is something that's really helped us that maybe it's not asked of you a lot or maybe you don't talk about it a lot, but it's something that you truly do like, hey, you think this could help the next person?
Yeah, and I don't want to be cliche, but like you cannot do it alone. I
Mm,
tell people all the time that, I own the company, but I don't necessarily run the entire company. I have people, really, really good people that we make a lot of decisions together.
yeah.
I really try not to make a lot of big decisions by myself, whether it's buying a new truck. We just had a conversation 2 weeks ago about what kind of truck do we want to get. I kind of wanted to get an Isuzu, like for mowing, like a
Yep.
flat bed with a
Yep.
ramp on it. And Mike and Rory, Mike's operations, Rory's the foreman, were both like, we want to grow our snow. We can't really put a plow on an Isuzu, so they
Yeah.
wanted to get a pickup, and we got a pickup truck. Like I try to run everything by my leadership team, which is Rory, Jennifer, and Mike, and also put a lot of responsibility onto them and not micromanage them. I'm working on that. I'm not perfect, but definitely giving people the resources to do their job and letting them do their job.
Jennifer, your office, I'm assuming that's your office admin.
Yes.
Did you bring her in from corporate America or from another office job? Did you have to train her? Like, did she already come with those skills? What did that look like?
Yeah, so she's been amazing. She has worked for us. She was part-time for about a year and a half with us, doing bookkeeping only.
Mm-hmm.
And then we had an opening for office manager, and she came in full-time. So she does the phones, the emails, she does anything insurance related. She does the bookkeeping, she does purchase receipts for Inspire. She does accounts payable, accounts receivable. She does a lot. And I think I'm very fortunate because she has grew up in the same neighborhood I did. She's older. She's in her early 50s, but there's a lot of trust there with her. And for somebody to be able to kind of run a lot of the books of the company, handle the money going in and going out, trust is like my number one most important trait for somebody in
Mm-hmm.
that role. She did come from corporate America. I can't remember the name of the company, but she was doing similar bookkeeping things for
Yeah.
them. But it's just been a phenomenal fit. She really fits in well with the blue collar kind of lifestyle that we have here, but it's been great.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's super cool. I think that's getting people in that you don't have to like handhold through everything that can come in and go to work. Like you train them in your business, but they
Correct.
know the general tasks, they know the things, and they probably know it better than you know it at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Like those
Yeah.
things. And so as we grow, that's kind of one of my big things is I want to bring people on who know more than I know in areas.
Absolutely.
And so that's your hiring and that process for you. How have you hired good crew members and good crew leaders per se? Are you hiring them that they come in with like a ton of skilled positions, or are you bringing them in and you're having to train them up?
So it's changed over the last few years. So when we started, it was hired based on skill and experience. If they had worked in landscaping for 10 years, that's going to get a job over somebody that's worked in landscaping experience with maybe no experience or maybe a year or two. Now we hire based on character and based on alignment with our core values. So in the interview, our core values are, the acronym is CHATS. So communication, honesty, accountability, teamwork, and safety.
Mm.
So we ask them, which of these five do you align the most with, or do you feel the strongest with? And which of these five do you feel like you have room for improvement in, or you need help on? So I really feel like a lot of the things that we do can be trained. Mowing can be trained, weed whacking can be trained, mulching, leaves, weeding. That's all very trainable things. But if the person is not open to doing a new way of something, if they're not coachable, if they're not honest, if they don't work well on the team, they're not safe, they're not going to work out here.
Yeah.
So experience is important, but it's not the most important thing. I really try to get a sense of having who they are before they start working with us. Obviously, that's not always how it is. Somebody can phone interview and in-person interview really well, show up to the job site and not be able to perform. Of course, that's happened. I think it's happened to everybody. But trying to understand them as a person more than just understanding them as a landscaper is really important to us.
In your interview process, do you do any like pre-interview ask those questions, like that question about your core values? Are you asking that in your interview when they're sitting there across the desk from you, or is that a question they're filling out on a piece of paper beforehand that you're reviewing before they even come do an in-person interview?
So we do a phone interview first, which is going to just kind of ask like preliminary questions, like who are you? Where did you work before? What are you looking for as full-time, part-time? What experience do you have? Just to make sure that they understand what our business is and we understand that they might be a good fit for that. When they come in for the in-person is when we get more down to the nitty-gritty of like who they are, kind of thing. It's the first phone call interviews maybe just to make sure like they know what they're getting into and they're signing up for the right job.
Okay. I see that. Do you ever see there would be a point to do like I've been thinking a lot about like literally like a pre-interview questionnaire
Sure.
to get some of these answers down beforehand to come in and like have a discussion about that, because I don't know. I'm not a hiring guru, right? HR is not my forte.
Sure.
But I'm sitting here like especially in our industry, we're bringing in guys that may be young, they're coming straight out of high school, they're not the best at communication.
Sure.
I feel like if I sit here across the desk from them and ask, what's the time that you felt like you could have done better, or a time you failed, and I feel like they're just gonna pull something out of their butt and not actually give you a true answer. Like, so I've been thinking in my mind, should we create a questionnaire, a 10-question page? Like, hey, you fill these out, submit it, we'll review, and then come in for an in-person and talk through those things. What is your thought process?
I like that a lot. I really like that. We have a questionnaire, very like a 10-question thing that we do when they're in person.
Yeah.
But I agree. I think if they came prepared with that would be super helpful. I
just know if I'm interviewing for, like, that's a hard question for me to answer, right? Like, just off the spot. Like, I need some time to think about that because it's a deep question. You want to have a deep answer. You don't just want to have something that they're just like pulling out, like throwing at you. So I don't know. Sure. That was just something I've been thinking about a lot. I'm like, what should those 10 questions be, right? For the first entry. But like, to me, that core value question, what do you align with? Let them think on that and let them put their thoughts into it and then submit that. And then when they come in, you can be like, oh, hey, I've seen this is what you selected. Tell me more about that. Right.
Correct.
As opposed to just throwing it at them. So I don't know.
I think that's a great idea. I like it. Another point I want to hit on hiring is I had a conversation with a friend of mine out of New Jersey, and he kind of asked, like, how do you get good people to work for you and stay with you? And I feel very strongly that if you have the right people in the right positions for them to succeed in, they're going to do their job a lot better.
Yeah.
It sounds super obvious, but for example, my foreman Rory, he loves being in the field. He loves working with his hands, working with the crews. He does not like being in the office more than a couple of meetings a week, which he's fine with, but he's not somebody who's going to be in the office running Aspire, doing scheduling, etc. So I'm not going to put him in that position that he wants to do doing something he doesn't want to do.
Yeah.
He's not going to do it well. So trying to understand, especially in those management positions, maybe not as much on the crew member and the crew lead. I think it's still important, but especially when you're hiring management positions, understanding what they actually like to do. If you're hiring a office manager and one of the main roles of their job is to run the social media, and they don't like being on social media at all, maybe that's not a good fit for them. Maybe you adjust the role and do it yourself, whatever it is. Understanding what they actually like and don't like doing, I think, is super important.
That's amazing. Putting them in the right position to succeed, I feel like, is one of the number one things that we should be looking at as owners, as leaders. Like, put people where they want to grow. And that's something that I'm doing as I try to grow my company, is put people in the right positions to feel valued and to feel like they're showing up to work for themselves every day. Mark Bradley talks about everyone is an entrepreneur at the end of the day. They show up, they go to work for themselves every single day. They may do it under our company name, but it's up to me to put them in a position to succeed and to grow and to learn. And so I can't second that more. And it's something that as we bring more people on, I want to make sure I'm doing my job, putting them in the right spots and asking those questions, right? Make them feel valued, make them feel like they are at a position in a company where they want, like the company wants them to grow and succeed and learn. Like, and I'm learning more and more. That may have to be instilled in them. They may not have that. They might have been raised like that. Like they may have to be taught, hey, this is how you think. This is how you grow. These are the steps you take to actually like grow your mindset and your belief. And that's on me as a leader to train and teach that to them.
Absolutely. And one thing that I think that we could do a better job at here is showing those crew members and crew leaders in that initial interview, or maybe in their onboarding process, what the path for growth in the company looks like.
Yeah.
So for example, I usually tell them if I'm trying to hire a crew leader that I really want to get, Rory's example, he was my first hire. He was a crew member, then a crew leader, then a foreman. Now he's a production manager. Foreman, they're similar names, but he's grown a lot with the company, and he's been here it's just been about 3 years. So showing people examples like that, but also having it written out so they can see, what is the next role I go to? What does that pay range look like? What is required of me to get there? But it's also my responsibility as a leader to be able to grow the company in a way that they can actually have that elevation in the company. If we don't grow, then there's no more roles for anybody to have. So it's my responsibility to build that for them so they can grow in the company.
And it's a two-way street that you get to go back to them and say, look, you want to grow in these positions. I want to grow the company. It requires you to show up and give your best every single day in the most efficient way, in the most profitable way, in the best quality way, because that's how we grow. So like it's a two-way street you both walk down.
Right. I definitely agree with that.
So that's awesome, dude. Well, we're 45 minutes in. I don't want to hold you. I know.
Are we really?
Yeah, I know. It's crazy.
Holy cow.
I know. Time flies. Time flies when you're having fun. This has been an amazing conversation. I think a lot of guys are going to take some action steps from this. And I hope you do out there if you're listening. Like Ethan's done it. He's put the work in. He's put the time in. And you can see he's not perfect. Like he's figuring it out. But he's got a lot of things done the right way, I feel like, and a lot of things that you can take and actually grow from. So I know I'm going to take things away from today. One of my biggest things I think that I'm going to get set in place is getting that interview questionnaire built out, in my opinion, because I want that going into springtime ahead of time. And I want to have that, when I have those conversations with those people coming in, I want to be prepared for them and I want them to be prepared as well. So that's my action step taken away from this conversation. I don't know, Ethan, do you have something like that stood out to you from our convo today? Like what do you want to work on moving forward?
I mean, I agree. I think the interview questionnaire is something that I want to implement. And then I would ask you, would you do it? Would you email it to them? Would you give it to them on a Google Doc where they can fill, or a Google form where they fill it out online?
Yeah.
How would you give that to them?
To me, I think on my side, I would do some type of editable PDF, like a Word doc, a Google Doc, something like that, where they can go in, put their answers in legit, make it easy, right? That's my thing is like, and you also think about, I mean, I think about myself. Kids that are 18, they know how to work TikTok and Snapchat. They don't know necessarily how to work Google Workspace, right? So like figuring that out. But I think that also, to me, that presents a culture of a company of technology, right? Like we're not just a pen and paper company. It's, look, we got this. We're figuring out, because I was talking to a buddy last night. I just got to meet. He's dating a friend of mine, and he's 19. He's doing HVAC, and I was asking him. I was like, so what software are you using with this, that, and the other? And he was like, man, the last software I used, I hated. This one is a little bit better. I'm excited to get there. We're about to transition to a new one though. And so like, he's 19, he's talking about software. Like tech is, it has to be ingrained in your company moving forward.
Absolutely.
You have to have technology. And so this also, like, to me, presents that like, hey, we're a technology focused company. It's something as simple as a freaking Google Doc, but like that's how you're getting your information to me, is something online. I get it immediate. We're prepared going in that conversation. So I don't know. I think that as we grow, that's something that we'll be doing.
I agree with that, because like, I'm not sure what you guys run, but for Aspire, they have to be able to use their phones, go to an app, clock in, record materials. So if they can't use a phone, it's going to be difficult. I mean, it's going to be difficult for them to do their job. It's a
little bit of a test. It's a little bit like doing it in Google Docs. It's a little bit of like, hey, can you do this? Can you figure it out without asking me the first day? Because if you're coming to me asking me how to figure it out and not go into ChatGPT or Google, hey, how do I fix this Word doc? Then like, how are your problem solving skills, right?
Correct.
And so
Absolutely.
that's crazy. It's crazy simple, but you kind of dive a little deeper into that thing, and you may find out more than you would think from a simple Google Doc.
I agree. And then the other two things I had I would take away would be making sure that next year we have all 4 of our safety meetings scheduled for the whole year. Like I
That's
said,
good.
we've done 2 of the big meetings. We still do the every week ones, but really getting those in the schedule for I think probably June and September,
Yeah.
making sure those actually happen. Because June and September are both busy times for us. So
Yeah.
making sure that we make time for something that's really important, which is safety.
Yeah.
And then having a path for growth map that we can probably present to the crew on the
Yeah.
orientation next year, saying like this is kind of the roles we have here. I did spend some time and I actually made like a org chart for 2025, 2026, and 2027. So maybe presenting those to the crew as well, so they can see like what our company's planning to look like in the next few years. So that could kind of go hand in hand with the path for growth map as well.
That's good. I'm going to take that away like that. Putting that on paper, what you want the company to look like. Because right now I'm telling my guys, man, we're growing, we're going to get there. This is where we're going to be. But it's like, how do they actually believe that, right? And when you put something out like that, I think that's a very good example. You don't have that flow chart yet, do you?
I'm pulling it up right now.
All right, guys, you got to go watch it on YouTube if you want to see this stuff.
All right, does this help? You see it?
Yes, it's loading there. Yeah, cool.
So this is next year.
Okay.
These are just going to be crew leads, not crew members on here yet. So we'll have admin. This is going to be another virtual assistant that's part-time. We're going to look for a part-time hardscaping salesperson, hardscape design, and then we're going to add another mowing crew. So we'll have 6 crews next year. Right now, I say we have 4 to 5, depending. But 2026,
awesome.
we'll have that. Those probably should be full-time. We'll have office manager, 2 full-time virtual assistants, and this salesperson should be moved to full-time. So we'll have 2 full-time salespeople in 2026.
Yeah.
And we'll add another landscape crew, another mowing crew. And then come 2027, we should have 2 full-time. Notice this needs to be changed, but 2 full-time salespeople and probably another part-time person, adding another landscape crew, another mowing crew, and then this needs to be added as well, but there should be a full-time mechanic or shop coordinator up here as well. So I think by 2027, our goal for revenue is going to be 5 million. So at that point, I project that we're probably going to have a lot of labor tied up in maintenance. So that by that time, I'd like to bring in a full-time shop mechanic.
Yeah. That's awesome, dude. That's so cool. And I tell you, like that lays it out there. That lays the path. Like, this is where we're going. That's something that I'm literally, as soon as we get off this call, this will be going to my VA to build out.
Awesome.
100%. Like, that's
who did mine too.
Yeah.
So I actually, I'll show you real quick. I wrote it all out in my notebook here, and then I sent pictures to him.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't need to be anything crazy. I just drew it out and then sent a picture, and he made it look pretty. So
yeah, that's awesome, man. That's so cool. Well, guys, this has been an awesome conversation. I thank Ethan for his time. You should as well. Reach out to Ethan. Ethan, where can everybody find you if they want to follow along with you, maybe on social or something like that? Where can they keep up with what you got going on?
Absolutely. So on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, Malvern Lawn Care. And then if you want to connect with me personally, it's Ethan Seeley on all that, and LinkedIn, just Ethan Seeley, Seeley.
Awesome, dude. Well, that's super cool. Guys, I appreciate the time today. I appreciate you spending some time with us on the show. I don't take it for granted. We get to do this. Like, you devoting 50 minutes of your time I do not take it for granted. I highly value that. And I appreciate you spending some time with us. I appreciate the audience spending time with us. And I hope that everyone out there has a great rest of the week and has a very, very, very Merry Christmas. If we don't hear from you or talk to you before then, we should. But it's going to be a great year to end here in 2024 and an even better year to start in 2025. So, guys, thank you for tuning in. Ethan, thanks for joining along with us, buddy. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, dude. Well, guys, y'all have a great day. I appreciate it. Leave us a big 5-star rating review if you don't mind. But without any further ado, that's going to wrap this one up. And we look forward to catching up with everybody here on the next one.